Well, hello, darling. So after 24 hours of makeup, just kidding, I don't know how long it was, maybe like 2 hours. I was like, okay, I'll just paint my face real quick for this video and then begin. And here we are. And I also was so excited to put on some fucking nails for this, and no nails, because I realized as I went to go put them on that my nail glue had dried up. And I had forgotten, I failed to think about that beforehand. So, oops, so now I have no painted nails. But here we are. I have a full face and even some naturally grown hair. Don't look at my unpainted nails. Don't look at my unpainted nails. Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel, because this is video 2. My name is MxPujaSingh, but you can call me Pooja, and my pronouns are they, them. All right, let's take a deep breath together. So exhale, emptying out all the stale air. Inhale, fill up as much as you can. And let it go. All right, here we go. So excited for this. Thank you so much to everyone who watched my first video. If you took the time to actually get through the whole thing as well, extra bonus points for you. This is the story of my queer, non-binary trans journey. The journey really began when I was born. I came out of the womb queer. I was conceived queer and trans, but it took me some time to figure that out for myself. So when I was really young, in school and before school, in school, in elementary school, I was bullied quite regularly. Bullying is so common, and it's really unfortunate, and I have no idea what it would be like to be going to school, elementary school, in this time with social media and everything. But when I was young and I was in school, I was bullied quite regularly. People would call me gay before I even really understood what being gay was. That when I was really young, I didn't have anyone to look up to that was gay. I don't ever remember seeing gay people in the media, on TV, like in anything like that, in movies or anything. So yeah, I just didn't know. And when I was young, and I knew, in middle school, I started to like feel different, and I was like, started to feel an attraction to guys, but it wasn't something that I understood. It was just like a very, I don't know, primal or visceral kind of thing. It was just like something I felt in me, but I had no actual like framework or understanding of what any of those feelings were. So it wasn't until later, until I moved to Southern California right before high school. So I started high school in a suburb of Los Angeles, and I still didn't know I was gay when I started high school. And then between my freshman and sophomore year, I finally realized I was gay, and I don't know exactly how it happened. I think just at that time, like, I was being exposed to gay culture maybe more, I don't know, through the internet, there was MySpace at that time, and like LiveJournal and AIM, and I mean, I guess we had AIM for a bit by then, but it was like the very beginning of social media. And so I started to see more people like that were different, that were living differently in different ways and looked different, and came from different backgrounds and things. So as I was being exposed to more people, I started to make connections, and I finally like figured out, I like had this aha moment, and I was like, oh, I'm gay. That's what those feelings are. I'm gay. Here we are. Hello. So it was like once I figured it out, I thought that gay people just couldn't have kids. And so I was like, from the very time I was very young, until just a few years ago, I was like very intent on having kids, and I was set on that. And so when I realized I was gay, there was a week period where I thought I couldn't have kids, and I was like, oh God, what am I gonna do? I can't be gay, this is terrible. And then I don't know how I figured it out. I'd probably looked it up on the internet or something, and I realized like I could adopt kids, or there were options. So then I was like, oh, I'm gay. Like, that's it. That was the only hesitation I had. Other than that, there was no hesitation within me. So it took a little bit of time to come out to my family. I don't remember how long, to be honest, but it didn't take that long, but I just had to kind of formulate my thoughts. And then I remember I wrote a letter to my parents, to my mom and my dad at that time. So my parents got divorced before we moved, and so that was why we moved. We had other family down here in Southern California, so we came down here, and I came out to my parents in this letter. I don't remember exactly what it said, but basically just, I'm gay. Hey hennies, I'm gay. Was the gist of it. And basically their response was, we love you, and you're still our child. And yeah, so I'm very, very, very thankful that I have had the support of my parents. And, you know, not to say there haven't been moments where they kind of didn't understand or didn't get it or didn't necessarily approve, but through that they've been supportive. So I came out when I was 15, and it was between freshman and sophomore year. And once I had that aha moment, it was like, I had no problem coming out to my friends, and I don't remember if I actually came out on MySpace or anything, but it was just like, I might have like changed my profile to be like, whatever that's called, sexuality, gay. But yeah, from then on, it was just like very, very natural for me. And I'm very thankful that I had the confidence within myself to just like know that was just who I was, and that's how it was, and that's fine, honey. I didn't need to change for anyone. And I'm also very thankful that I had the support of like my family and most of my friends. I was quite like a drifter in high school, so like I was like friendly with a lot of people, but I didn't necessarily like I had a couple really good friends. Other than that, I didn't like have a ton of friends. So when I came out, I don't remember actually, I don't have like the best memory, and so sometime around when I came out, I don't remember if it was before or after. I feel like it may have been before, possibly, because I feel like it may have been part of the catalyst of how I figured it out. But basically, I found fashion. And I specifically remember my neighbor at the time, her name was Gabby, and she was a good friend of mine, and she had I'm pretty sure it was a September Vogue, so this probably would have been in like 2003, I think, or 2002, somewhere around there. And it was a big September issue of Vogue, and I remember just like being like, oh my God, what is this? And I was so excited and just so inspired by the images in that fucking magazine, like the fantasy in it, and the way that people used fashion to like express, not just like to serve a look, but it was like to express a whole world, a whole fantasy, you know? And like, I was like, I want to feel my fantasy. And so I started experimenting with fashion, and it opened up a whole world for me. When I was young, my mom always dressed me in like really cute outfits. And then when I started dressing myself, I was like kind of just like weird and nerdy. Like one of my school photos, I'm wearing like denim overalls over like a white button-down shirt, and I have either a tie or a bow tie on, I think. And I'm like sitting with my legs crossed and my hands like on my knees. It's so freaking cute. but I was just like living my own little fantasy then, but I didn't understand the power of fashion. I was just kind of like wearing clothes to be cute. I don't know. I don't even know what I was thinking at that age. But once I like discovered fashion in high school, a whole world opened up and I really started to explore, and I started to explore like the way that fashion gave me an opportunity to like change the way that the world interacted with me. And it's still something I continue to explore to this day, and it's always very interesting to see how people treat me depending on how I present. You know what I mean? So it's been a whole journey, that this idea of presentation, and it happened through fashion, but it's not necessarily exclusive to fashion. Fashion was just the thing where like the arena where it was done so at such a high level, it was like the camp and the drama and the just like over the topness of it was so like, yes. I grew up being a theater kid, so it was like theater that I could bring into my everyday life. And so it also, that idea of connecting like performance into everyday life, like fashion really brought that in for me. So during that phase, being on MySpace and seeing all these other people, I started to see like some of the freaks coming out, and I was like, Henny, yes, I am here for it. So I started to play with makeup. I started to wear makeup like on a daily basis, and I really that was when I started to explore my gender. And I did not call myself non-binary yet. It wasn't until many years later, more than a decade later, until I figured out like that term for it. But I did hear about the word genderqueer. I remember that was like one of the ones, genderqueer and genderfuck. And part of that came from like the club kid scene. And I remember in high school, there was this kid, I don't even remember their name, but they were so cool, and I don't remember how I became friends with them, but I remember that they like wore makeup and they were really like punk and I don't know, alternative, whatever you would call them. And I remember they used to wear like red eyeshadow like all around their eyes, and I thought it was like the coolest thing. And I have done that, like I still do that all the time now because I think it's such a good look. And but I just remember being so inspired by them, and I was like, this freak is so cool. And they were like one of the first like real weirdos I remember meeting. And they came over to my house and we watched Party Monster. Like they introduced me to Party Monster, and it changed my life. That shit was so fucking good. And again, like the looks in there, the fashion, the drama, the camp. Oh my God, it was just so good. And those images are burned in my mind in the best way possible and continue to inspire me to this day. I mean, this look is like, wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have seen that movie, you know, like, so Party Monster was a huge influence to me, and the whole club kid scene, like Party Monster was like the gateway for me. But then I really discovered like the real club kids and like Lee Bowery. I mean, Lee Bowery, just I continue to like stare at Lee Bowery images and watch Lee Bowery videos and like just, oh my gosh, Lee Bowery is such a huge, like probably one of my biggest inspirations in life. I can't even handle the magnificence that they were and that they are still. I mean, they exist, you know, beyond physical form through image and memory. And oh my God, I mean, not that I ever have memories of them, but memories of images of memories of memories. So yeah, discovering all the freaks of the world and starting to discover them. I don't remember when I discovered Amanda Lepore. I think it was sometime in high school or maybe right after, but Amanda Lepore, oh my gosh. I got to meet her a couple times and she is, I mean, just again, such a huge inspiration. So after, going through high school, I just explored makeup and fashion I was in my baby phase, so it wasn't anything like crazy, but it was definitely like, for me, it was like a world opening up. And then after high school, I went to fashion design school, as I mentioned in my intro video. And there, when I went to fashion school, that was, again, like a whole, like just constantly cracking open new layers of inspiration and new worlds that I didn't know existed before, and exploring fashion so much deeper on a personal level, and then also like exploring the industry and like the history of fashion and all of the amazingness that comes from it. So then either at the end of fashion design school or when I finished, I started going out to clubs, and this was before I was 21, so I was using my brother's ID. I started going out to clubs, and again, this was like the next thing that just changed my life. Like it was, that was like where I was born in a way. Like the person that I am now, a big part of me was born in the clubs of downtown Los Angeles, the bars and clubs and fucking parties of downtown Los Angeles. And there was one party in particular that it was the first party I started going to regularly, Mustache Mondays. Shout out to that whole scene at Mustache Mondays, and Nacho Nava, rest in power. I mean, I am forever grateful, and I am consistently still blown away. Those memories at Mustache Mondays and kind of like the other clubs and parties that surrounded it and that scene kind of had as well, those moments changed my life, and those moments are moments that I hold on to so dearly. The inspiration, the community, the passion, the love, the music, the dancing, the art, the creation, the fucking life that people gave at those parties, like was just amazing and so inspiring. That was such a huge part of me finding like my queerness and like seeing other queer people being queer and being trans and being freaks and being everything, having just the diversity of people there. And that was the first time I was really in spaces with like a lot of BIPOC people as well. So that was life-changing. I mean, I could go on and on and on about like my whole journey through the party scene. I also want to say, like, yes, I drank tons and did a lot of drugs and did all of that stuff, but I also, like, there was a lot of moments for me that were like spiritual moments, like just so many moments of like being with people and feeling so seen and feeling like I was a part of something, and like I was with people that got me and understood me and like were like me, and also there were definitely moments where I didn't feel like I fit in there either, and I felt like, oh God, how am I even here? How am I at this cool ass party with all these cool ass people? But it, you know, I guess in some ways, like I'm sure many other people felt that same way, but that was like the place where we belonged and where we belong. that was also when I found drag, and when I started doing like drag. Like I had been wearing makeup before, but I had never like done drag like in a more kind of, I don't know, formal way or whatever you want to call it. So I actually got into drag for the first time and went to Mustache Mondays. I wore, I believe it was a little white dress, and I wore a little navy blue hat, and that was, again, a life changer, a game changer. When I started doing drag, that was a whole other level of me exploring both fashion and gender and just identity through those two things, like in such a big way. And that journey of drag has obviously continued until now. So it's something that I'm constantly exploring, and maybe I'll do a video one day just about drag, because again, it's something I can talk about for so long, and I have so many memories of like just turning looks and being with other people turning looks and being so inspired by like what I'm around and seeing performances that just blew my mind. And like drag has been a huge part of my queerness. And it was a big step in me exploring gender, and it really was a huge catalyst for me to eventually like realize my transness in all its glory. And so kind of skipping forward like almost a decade, because through that decade was tons of exploration with gender and with drag and with fashion. And then through that period, I started my practice of yoga, of asana, and diving deeper into philosophy, and then eventually finding kirtan. And so the finding yoga in there was another tool and a whole other layer of exploring my identity and making the connections between yoga and drag and fashion and music and art and all these other things that were so important to me. Then I really started to like become more clear in these parts of my identity. I guess that brings me to like how I figured out the trans part of the equation of my being. And I've been identifying as genderqueer since I was about 15, since I first came out. And the more time has gone on, the more the language around all of this stuff has kind of been developed and become more clear, and also a lot of it has become more mainstream. And so I started identifying as non-binary, I think about a handful of years ago or something. And then last year, when quarantine started, I was invited on, I believe it was on Instagram, to be a part of this group for trans yoga teachers. And I was invited by my dear friend River, who invited me into the group. And the first thing I said in the group was like, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so honored, but I just want to say that I'm not trans. I'm non-binary. And River wrote me back and was like, hey, like, it's totally fine. You don't have to identify as trans, but I consider you trans because to me, trans is anyone that doesn't identify with the gender that they were assigned at birth. And I don't identify with the gender that I was assigned at birth. And this River opened up another huge, like, door for me that I just, for whatever reason, I just couldn't let myself go through that door by myself before. And when River kind of gave me this permission to call myself trans, which I want to note that, like, it's really important that we don't expect to find permission outside of ourselves to do anything. We have the ability to give ourselves permission for whatever it is that we genuinely feel we should do. You know, if we can go deep within ourselves and have a practice of self-inquiry and get to that place where we feel like that's what we should do, then we can give ourselves that permission. But sometimes there are those moments where we need permission from others. And this was one of those moments where I just kind of needed that in some way, and getting that from River opened up this whole world for me, and I'm so grateful to River for that. So I ended up being a part of this group of trans yoga teachers, and it kind of grew, and we made beautiful connections, and then it eventually led me to meet some people who we have now co-founded the Trans Yoga Project together. We got together to do one workshop, and the workshop went really well, and we were all had so much fun planning it, and felt just so good being together in this group. And so the workshop turned into what is now the Trans Yoga Project, and I'm so excited and honored to be a part of this group. And please, if you don't know about the Trans Yoga Project, please check us out at transyogaproject.com, and you can find us on Instagram at Trans Yoga Project. This group that we've created together has been one of the most life-affirming things that I've ever gotten to be a part of. It is this space that we've held for each other and for other people, and the things that we've created already in just not even a year of being together, and I'm just so excited to see what else we create. They have been a huge part of my journey as well. And one thing I want to say is that I figured out that I was gay when I was 15, and I figured out that I was trans a year ago, but these are just the labels that I figured out. I have always been queer. I have always been trans. I have always been this being in this lifetime, in this body. But I just figured out certain language that helped me to describe myself a little bit better. But these things are also not who I truly am. I am so much greater than these labels. But these labels sometimes help us to understand each other in a new way, or in a deeper way, or in a different way. So if we can have language that helps us to more clearly explain something that we feel on the inside, then we can use that to help our relationships, to help our own understanding of ourselves. So I really encourage you to explore and to dig deep, and whether you identify as gay or straight or bi or trans or cis or any of these labels or any in between or any other label, I encourage you to explore. If you don't explore, you never know what parts of your being just haven't been discovered yet. And so be free, have fun. Gender is a construct. When we can start to be more critical of it, when we can start to allow others to just be on their own journey and explore in their own way, then we can all have more fun and be more free. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you'll like and comment and subscribe and share it, and hope you come back to watch again. We got It's all about self-expression. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you feel like a troll, you should look like a troll. If you've got a hunchback, throw a little glitter on, honey, and go dancing. The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. Blake, William. That's really all you need to know. That and don't dream it, be it. It's and um